Hello. Tonight we're going to take a look at some stock photographs. I want to be very clear that I'm very thankful that these stock photographs were taken and that they are available for us to go through. We're going to take a look at some poses and some things that I would do a little differently in the photograph to give you guys a feel for my technique. Now, this first picture is one of the ones that I like that shows part of a person that they can't normally see. Here, I would want her face to be visible. If not, if this were a series, so that there was other things that would identify her, I would want to make everything else less bright and less in focus, making her the subject of the photo and not just another element in it. While her white outfit does make her stand out, I think I would want the rest of the background to just fade away. This does not have the retouching. I would do more retouches on the shoulders to make the make it show better. Now, while I like this particular pose and photograph, I hate the white background. It just pulls too much away from her to begin with. Secondly, hands on the hips I'm not a big fan of. It takes away from you being able to see what the shape of her hips actually are. And this has already been darkened and more color added to her. She's very pale, so very pale with a white background is not a good combination. I would want a darker color, maybe a neutral color, something more gray perhaps, to show off her a little better. Here's another good photograph showing the gains that were done on the back, the definition that was created. I like the shot as far as the background is concerned, and it would make a nice series shot, for my opinion, because it doesn't show off her face. One thing you're going to see in some of these photographs is a lot of people looking down. I don't understand why. I understand that as a series piece, it would look good, but it doesn't show off enough of the person. This is an excellent photograph showing not only her flexibility, but the definition and detail in her arms, her back, and her legs. I don't know why they felt that they needed to add the smoke. I think that detracts quite a bit from the image. It's a more artistic piece, which I understand, but I'm going to look at all of these today with more of a goal of showing off your definition and your detail, and you being the center of the photograph. So to me, having all this smoke around there just detracts from her being the center point and showing off all that definition that she's got. This next photograph, I believe, is a good, strong pose. I like the fact that it shows off the muscles from the flexed bicep, as well as the striations and the vascularity of the other arm as he's got it down and turned. I think I'd want to put him in a little bit better pose to give more definition to the legs. While the upper background looks good, that white on the bottom is just distracting. I would want everything to be... I would prefer the darkness of the corners of the picture myself, but even going more to what the upper part of the background is would set him off a little bit more. Now, this one has been retouched to pull that definition out better, but overall it's a good pose. I just a little bit more flexing around the legs to show off the gains that he made in that area. but the upper body, the abs, all of that has very good detail. Again, this is a person who's looking down, and it's very hard to see their eyes because of the shadow hitting it. And that's something that to me, I think the photos should show off the person and be a capture in time. Like this, you can see his face. Unfortunately, that white background is glaring. If you could think about this on your phone, all that white light hitting you, it detracts from him. There's also some areas that look like he was pulled out of something else and put here. If I was going to make this up as a print, I would either do 4 prints or put something separating them. The 2 in the middle, I don't like, because those being together, they just look too similar. Now, to me, the head looks artificial, and it's probably the way that it was being cut, the way it was extracted from whatever background it was originally on. The poses themselves are good. I think they show off his definition and highlight the gains that he made. But at the same time, shooting him against a normal background so you didn't have to extract him would have been good. These could be from him competing, and he was extracted from the stage. But whatever was used to extract him just didn't do quite the right job, and leaves this artificial feel to it. Of course, the fact that there's no shadows and it's just out there doesn't work. And you can see these areas here where it looks like it cut into the body, where it was actually not getting just him out. It was removing part of him as well. But the poses are good. The photo itself, if I was going to do this, I would want to make sure that the vascularity and things were shown, but there was some kind of shadow so it doesn't look quite so artificial. This particular one reminds me of a football shot. You got that AstroTurf on the bottom, artificial grass. I like workout photographs. Now his head's down here, but if you work with a kettlebell, looking up at the camera is not going to be what you're doing while you're actually working with the ball. So this would have been, to me, a series of shots of him working with a kettlebell. I'm not sure I would put him where he was. You know, like I said, looking down makes sense here, but I'm just not crazy about the area in which he was photographed. If he was a footballer, it would make sense to me, but it doesn't from the perspective of what he's doing right here. Other than that, it's a good shot, showing off definition. I love all the tattoo work that he's got, and it like I said, would work as a member of a series of photographs where you still had something that would show him off and you could see his face, and he would be more identifiable than he is right now. They've got light hitting him from multiple angles, so he doesn't have many shadows on his body, which is good. Here's a photo you've probably seen me run before. This has been retouched. I like the fact that you can see the vascularity in the arm and you can see the bicep. There's a few things about this that I'm not crazy about. The background isn't bad. It doesn't pull the eye from her as much as the other brighter backgrounds do. But if you look down here at her hand, it just looks like it's popping out. I think I would let her drop her arm down completely so that the hand was not showing at all. It also detracts from her shape, having her hand in that particular position. On top of that, the hand seems lighter than everything around it, and it kind of draws the eye. Other than the hand part, the rest of it is a good photograph and a good pose. Here's another workout pose. You got light hitting from a couple of different angles, which we'll get into in a minute. I don't like the fact that I can't see her face. So I would probably shoot it from a different angle so I could, in fact, see her face. She doesn't have a lot of definition, but you can see the light hitting her face and hitting her hair. But at the same time, she has a lot of shadow over her abdominals. So while the legs have light, her arms have light, the midsection does not. And I think I would want to do a different angle, and I'd set the lighting coming down on her from above. If I had to use a 2-light setup like this, I would go definitely to a 3-light setup. In addition, it was shot at 6.3, as you can see up the top here, when the lens is at 2.8. I would have dropped it down as far as I could to give it a good bokeh, to pull her out from the background by making that background look a little more blurred. So I like the fact that it's an action shot. I would change the angle. I would add a 3rd light coming down to allow us to see her abdominals better. And I would want to turn it so that we could see her face. Obviously, in this position, with this type of workout, she's not going to be facing the camera. So we need to turn so that we are in the proper position. Now, if this were one of a series, it might be okay, but I'd still want to blur everything and make her more of a center point to this. But again, I want to see the face more. I want to see the eyes. I want to see her working out. I want to see the expression on her face as she does so. And I want to be able to see the abdominal muscles. It's a little too bright on the face. It's a little too bright on the hair. The light needs to be balanced out a little bit more so we can see things a little better. Now here's a good, what looks like a competition suit. I like all the sparkles on the suit. I remember when my partner competed, they could do the sparkles on the arms, and I haven't seen that in a while. As a matter of fact, I think I saw something where it's not allowed anymore to have the bright sparkly bracelets and things, which she loved so much. It's a good photograph. It shows off her abs. It shows off the definition of her legs. Personally, I would want to pull back a little bit more and get the entire body and not have it cut off. But what they have done here is a good thing. They didn't cut off above the, or at the joints. And that's one thing you don't want to do. We've got a lot of nice definition showing, as you can see. But I'd pull back, I think, and doing a full body shot as opposed to cutting it off where it is right here. Here's a good outdoor shot. Now, an outdoor shot, I don't care what the background looks like. Now, I've retouched it so you can see that I've pulled him out of the background a little bit more. I think I would blur the background even more, and especially that area up around his face, I would pull that, I would darken that. I want him to be the center point of it. It's an outdoor shot. I don't care about the background. I don't care, even if it's a gym shot, I really don't care about the background. What I care about is the person that I'm photographing. And I want that person to stand out very clearly from everything around them, so there's no question that this is the focus of the shot. It's a good, powerful pose. I like the pose. I like the vascularity. I like the definition. I just don't see the reason why the background needs to be as in focus as it is. Again, this is another one shot at 6.3. I'm not sure what lens was used, other than it being a 31 millimeter. I don't know how far down it could have gone, but I would definitely have looked at going for a lower f. What that means is the higher the number, the more of what you're taking a picture of will be in focus. So I would say, looking at this, that he's probably, God, he could be 14 or higher. Just a little background that's not in focus. Here's a good portrait shot. To me, it's okay. This one's cut off because he's wearing pants. And what I'm looking for is the definition. So the definition and the gains that he's got are the focal point of it. He has glasses in his right hand. I know I've had glasses since I was in college. To a lot of people, glasses seems to be an indication of age. He looks certainly fit enough to not worry about what the age is. But it's a good shot. It shows his definition. It's got a nice background to it. It's got his tattoo there and in focus. So here's one where you want to make sure that you've got a little bit more of the person in focus. With a portrait shot, you can go down to the point where you're getting the eyes are in focus and the rest of it's a little bit soft. But when you're doing a bodybuilder, you want more of it to be in focus. Now, this was shot at f11, so way more of the area was going to be in focus than needed to be. It could have gone down to 1.8. I wouldn't do a 1.8 on here because his definition would get softened out. And that's another thing to worry about. A smartphone doesn't care. The whole thing is in focus. And you have to play with the picture to get good bokeh, and it's a JPEG to begin with, which is a pain, even unless you change over to RAW. But here, with a professional camera, you have the ability to adjust it so that the background fades away. But you got to make sure that you've got it enough that they've got good definition. Here is another one shot at f9. It's a little too much. I don't like the fact that they cut off her head. And you can see that I've got a little bit of a leftover from the original bright yellow background that this was shot on, which was horrendous. To have a bright yellow background with her with a yellow suit on was just awful. I would have gone much higher with the weights that she's holding. 4 kilograms, 8.8 pounds is, I think, way less than somebody with this amount of strength could handle. And they're beginner weights, and she's way past them. I do like the fact that we can see definition and vascularity in the arms and the legs, but it's cut at the joints. The worst place to cut it is at the joints, be it arms, legs, or anything else. It's just a very, very bad look, and there's absolutely no reason they couldn't have backed her out to get the entire thing. Now, this was shot originally landscape, and I made it to portrait by just cutting off part of the image that was there that was just that bright yellow background that had no reason for it. We got good abdominal definition. It's a good photograph, except that, why did you cut it so short? Why did you cut off part of her head? And why in the world did you cut her off at the knees? And bring that face up. Let's see what she looks like instead of looking down. She's got weights in her hands. If she were going to be working out, this is not the pose she would be in. And with 4 kilogram weights, I doubt she's going to think about it too much before she lifts them. To her, they're going to weigh nothing. It's going to be an easy set of reps. Here's another good power pose. You'll notice that she has a much greater weight. You can see the definition in her arms. You can see the vascularity. The other arm is just hanging to the side, so it's not taking anything out. It's gone down so far on the legs, why not just go the rest of the way? Just put her all in the picture. Don't cut her off. This again had a very big depth of field, so that everything is in focus, which is good when you're shooting musculature, so that you don't have anything that looks soft. But again, you got a good amount of weight. It's a good shot. Back off just a little bit more and get all of her in. Here's a good power pose. I'm assuming, can't tell, that there's nothing, no definition of the legs, kind of like what we had here. The cutoff looks weird. With her, it was at the knees. It seems like it's an odd place. But you can see the good definition on the bicep that's curled. You can see the vascularity in the other arms. You can see the abdominals. So it's a great pose. It just looks like it's cut off in an odd spot. I like the background. It just fades away, and the lighting on him pulls him right out, and all you see is him. He's not hidden by the rest of the background. Good pose, good photograph, except for the way he cropped it at the bottom. I'm not really sure why they went there. But other than that, it's a good photograph, and it's got a high enough F on it that everything is going to be in focus. So you don't have to worry about anything going out of focus and looking soft on him. With the pose on the side, you can see his face. It looks natural for the pose that he's in. But again, he could have turned so that his face was facing the camera. Now, this is a good workout pose. I would kill that light in the background. That is extraordinarily distracting and does not need to be there. Could have been cropped out of the picture. It could have been moved to a different spot. It doesn't make sense to be there for a couple of reasons. I don't care about the shadow underneath him, and you got so much coming in from the front, you're not going to have much in the way of shadow anyway. And I don't care if his back is highlighted. I would take that out completely. It's too distracting. It's a good workout pose. You can see his face, you can see the definition, and you can see his abs. This photo to me looks contemplative with his hands in his pockets. I don't know why they cut off his foot, and I don't know why they cut it so close to his head. I would have backed off a little bit more. This is another thing where they had a high F on it so that everything is in focus, which doesn't need to happen. But this photo also started out being completely washed out. They had so much light on him you could not see his definition. So the first thing I did was bring back the color into him because he looked very pale. Because of the lighting, not because of him. Brought the detail back in on his abs, and then took the what if stance. Now that I've got it done, I've got the color, I've got everything looks good. What would it look like black and white? And just the pure difference between the original washed out photograph and this black and white one was extraordinary. Again, I think I'd take it a little step further, because his pants, because they are so dark now, kind of get hidden with the machine. I'd want the machine behind him to be a little more blurred so that his leg would stand out a little bit more. But part of it is just there was so much light on everything to begin with. His pants were gray. His hair was gray. He had no definition at all because it was just overdone by the exposure. This is another good power pose. I like the fact that his hands are closed and they aren't on his hips. They're a little higher, which flexes the biceps a little bit more, allows him to pull up on his shoulders more and his chest to show that off better. You can see his face, so while he's not looking at the camera, you can still see who he is. He's not staring at the camera, he's staring off. It's cut in a reasonable point. So this is a good power photograph that just needed to be cropped down a little bit because it had too much of the gym in there. I don't care about the gym, I care about the subject, which is the person that I'm photographing. And it's cut off in an okay spot. It's not at the joint, and he's probably got something on that goes all the way down. It could be shorts, but even if it is, his quads are going to be completely covered up. This is a purely artistic shot. This reminds me of a boudoir shot. It started out so dark to begin with, you couldn't even see her stomach. And you can see down here that the legs are still very dark, and that's without me overexposing it too much, just trying to keep it all balanced. And I get if it was doing an artistic shot, more of a boudoir thing, but she's flexing her arms so you can see the striations, you can see the detail, and it seems to me to be a waste to not back off so that you can see the entire body, because I would love to see how much detail are in their legs, and I can't because of the way it's cut off. But there's just so little light on her. I don't understand why. I can kind of make out her face, so she is identifiable, but I just don't understand why they wouldn't take the extra step to add another light in, to change the ISO on it so that they'd have more light to work from, which you can do ISO, you can do many things to get more lighting in there, but I just don't understand why keep her so dark. As part of a series, maybe, but if this is what I'm going to use for her, this is not what I would consider to be a good look for a bodybuilding photograph. Again, I'm very thankful to all these photographers for their different styles and putting things together. Whether it be this, where we've got a good shot from the back, but it's very, very bright. I mean, you contrast this photograph to the one before it. Look at how bright everything is here, how in focus everything is here that distracts from her. Whereas the other one is just so dark that you can't see her. But I would definitely do more here to pull her out of the clutter in the photograph and make her the centerpiece of this photo. So I hope overall you found this helpful, the series that I've been doing. We'll see where we go with the next one. I'm not really sure what what next week is going to hold for us yet. This particular one is an idea that I had of doing a digital version of a charcoal and paper drawing. That's the one that I started off with right there, and then converted it over to a charcoal and a charcoal type drawing. One of the things that I can do with the photographs is I can make digital paintings out of them, which I have done, as well as these charcoal ones. While it takes away from the definition, because it softens the image quite a bit, obviously. It's not as sharp as the photograph was, but at the same time it gives you some options on what to put up on your walls. So even though it started out as a photograph, it can morph into something else. Maybe it's on your wall, maybe it's in a book. Your choice. But thank you for tuning in. I know we've gone long this time, and I'll see you next week, and we'll see what next week's live is going to look like. Thank you for tuning in.